Hello, friend. Around 4,500 years ago, a miracle was made in Egypt that still amazes people to this day. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built at a height of 147 meters. It was the tallest thing ever, built by humans for about 4,000 years. So many heavy stones were used to build it that the weight of the entire pyramid is said to be 6 million tons. Compared to the tallest building of today, Burj Khalifa, which weighs only 5 lakh tons. The most surprising thing here is how was it built? Because at that time, people didn't have any cranes, bulldozers, or any big technology. They didn't even have wheels. But still, they built a monument that is still standing today. Think about it. If a building was built for 4,500 years in this scorching heat, there was a storm, there was rain, there was weathering. There is no such thing in the world that has survived to this day. So how did all this happen? Let's understand the mystery of this pyramid in today's video. Built as gargantuan tombs of shining white limestone, the pyramids were designed to hide dark secrets of the dead. Friends, the more we go back in history, the more difficult it becomes to find out for sure what exactly happened, how it happened, and when it happened. So it is assumed that the Great Pyramid of Giza was built in the year 2560 BC by Pharaoh Khufu. The kings and emperors in ancient Egypt, we call them pharaohs. If we talk specifically about Pharaoh Khufu, we don't know much about these kings. All we know is that he was the second king of the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom of Egypt. How many years exactly did he rule? There is a lot of discussion on this. Historians make some estimates. Some say 23 years, some say 34 years, some say more than 60 years. This pyramid is located on the banks of the Nile River, on its west bank. And if you look at the photos and videos, you will see that this is not the only pyramid. There are 2 more pyramids like this. They were built in the same place. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the tallest of the 3, which we also call the Pyramid of Khufu. The Pyramid of Khafre is smaller than this, which is the second largest pyramid in Egypt. It is said that Khufu's son Khafre built it. And the third and smallest pyramid is the Pyramid of Menkaure. It is said that Khafre's son built it. These are not the only monuments built in that era. Apart from this, there are the Great Sphinx, several other burial tombs, several other small pyramids. In total, there are 118 pyramids of different shapes and sizes. Many of these pyramids have been destroyed due to weathering. Very few have survived in good conditions. And perhaps the best well-preserved are these 3 pyramids, especially the Great Pyramid of Giza. What was the reason behind building them? The same reason behind building many other ancient monuments. They were built as a tomb. This is a tomb. Their pharaohs have been buried here. Inside the pyramid, the thing is, ancient Egyptians believed in the afterlife. They believed that life does not end. After death, our soul goes to the underworld where God judges our soul. Those who have done good stay alive forever in this afterlife. And to prepare for this afterlife, when their king, their pharaohs were alive, they built tombs for themselves. A lot of food, treasure, jewelry, furniture, clothes, all these things were kept inside the pyramid to be used. In the afterlife, after their death, their bodies were mummified and buried in wooden or stone coffins. Now, you'll ask, how do we know that the pyramids were used for these things? There are 2 major reasons, friends. First, on such ancient pyramids, we have found inscriptions. On such coffins and on such pyramids, we have found texts explaining what they did. Second, the majority of such historical pyramids that we have found in Egypt and Sudan were used as tombs. But because specifically inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, there is no substantial evidence of these things inside the pyramid, people make their alternative theories. When the archaeologists went inside the Great Pyramid, they found only 3 relics and an empty coffin. This coffin is believed to have belonged to Khufu, and the other treasures and jewelry that should have been around should have belonged to Khufu. It is assumed that in all these years, Someone stole it and took it away. Those who disagree with this, their alternative theories are very strange. A very popular theory that is heard is that the Great Pyramid was a power plant that could generate electricity. Those who believe this say that the ancient Egyptians were very technologically advanced. They had already learned how to generate electricity. As evidence of this theory, it is said that their artworks from some ancient times are shown. On the walls of their ancient temples, some such artworks have been found. Some people see them and conclude that they've made a light bulb here. They had already invented a light bulb, and I don't know what happened after that. I repeatedly said that such. Conspiracy theories are made when there is no substantial evidence about anything. But these conspiracy theories are often so strange that they don't have any logical sense. If the light bulb really existed in the times of the ancient Egyptians, why hasn't it been found as evidence? In reality, this artwork actually shows the story of an Egyptian mythology. Another popular theory is that this pyramid was actually a granary to store grains. It was a big market. This theory was proposed by American politician Ben Carson in 1998. According to him, this is his personal theory. Actually, these pyramids were made by Jesus Christ's father. All the archaeologists think they were made for the pharaohs. Great. Here, you can see another reason behind making conspiracy theories, which is religious appeasement anyway. This is quite clear today. Historians agree with each other that the Great Pyramid of Giza was made as a granary. At that time, people believed that the grander the granary, the more treasures and food we store, the better our king's afterlife would be. But now, let's come to the biggest question. How were these pyramids actually made? To be honest, this is the most mysterious thing about these pyramids. How did the people build a 137-meter tall building made of huge stones that the weight of these stones is between 2.5 tons to 80 tons? Every stone has been cut so evenly that there is not even crack in it. How were these stones placed one on top when these people were not even using wheels? And they did all this within 20 years. Only 20 years, friends, is the time taken to make this Great Pyramid of Giza. Many theories are told about it, and this time I won't talk about conspiracy theories, which are very weird. But before these theories, let's look at a big misconception which people have about these pyramids. In movies, it is often shown that during construction, slave labor was used. Very poor. Servants were forced to work day and night. Their bosses would beat them a hunter. Do you remember this? You must have some movie. For a long time, people thought that the slaves had made these pyramids. A Greek historian from the 5th century BC, Herodotus, had suggested this theory that the slaves had made these pyramids. But today, we know that this was not the case. The people who were working to make this pyramid were highly skilled laborers. They were not beaten up, but were fed well. In fact, fed so well that the average Egyptian citizen who lived at that time were more well-fed than these people lived in cities near construction sites. Apart from this, they also from different community members during different, for example, if farmers were not farming, they would come in their free time and help in the construction. In a way, all the people living in the kingdom were very united about this national project. They trusted their king a lot. In total, approximately 20,000 to 30,000 workers were involved in its construction who worked for 10 hours a day to make this Great Pyramid of Giza. The action, material, approximately 5.5 million tons of limestone, 8,000 tons of granite, and 500,000 tons of mortar were used. Most of these stones came from the surrounding areas. Most of them came from the southern Egypt region, which was 800 km away. Now the question is how these stones were cut. Copper was the most common metal used, that the tools used were made of copper. The hard granite stones were broken using dolerite. There were many unique methods. For example, cracks and holes were found and wooden wedges were put inside as the stone absorbed, the wedges expanded and the stone broke. But how were these stones moved? At that time, wheels were not used and there was no machine to move the stones. The most plausible theory is that to bring the stones from far away, they used rafts which used the river. After that, when the stone came near, they used sledges and wet soil. This is an interesting theory which was recently. A study was done and the basis of this theory is a painting found on the tomb of Jehuti-Hotep. This tomb is from 1900 BC, but in this painting, you can see 170 people carrying a statue on a sledge and using ropes to pull the heavy object. If you look carefully in this painting, you will see how a man is pouring water on the sledge in front of. At first, archaeologists thought that was a ritual, but when physicist Daniel Bourne and his team tested it, they found that if a certain amount of water is present, the friction reduces. This ratio is very fine, 2 to 5% water in sand. With this, it becomes very easy. Now the next question is that let's assume stones can be pushed and taken to the sand. But how can stones be placed on top of how can such heavy objects be lifted without machines? Usually, a police system can be made to lift it. But as I told you, the wheel did not exist during the 4th dynasty in Egypt. It existed, but it was used only for pottery. The answer to this is a unique system. In 2015, a team of English and French archaeologists uncovered a 4,500-year-old wooden ramp from a quarry. The scholars said that such a ramp must have been made at that time, which was a straight slope from the ground to the top. To push this slope, they used a system where they cut wooden poles around it. Then they used ropes around the poles to pull the stones up. In this way, as you can see in the artwork, it was suggested by the physicist Joseph West in 2014. According to this theory, after completing every level, they must have made a new slope, and so that the slope's angle is not too high, they must have taken it to the back. That is, making the slope from the back, so that the slope does not. Apart from this, another theory says that they must have used a system of levers to keep the stones on top of each other. See how it works basically, they took a middle point whose height is a little higher. They put a stick on top of it and put on the other side of the stick, and then turn it upside down. Scholars believe that a similar system named Shaduf existed in Egypt for thousands of years. They also use this mechanism to extract water from the Nile to irrigate their fields. Both these theories sound very good, but the problem is the construction time. We know that the pyramids were completed within 20 years. If 20,000 people were to transport stones like this, then every 3 minutes, one stone should be placed here every day. If it seems very unlikely that they worked so fast. This is exactly the reason why it is still a big mystery. Both these theories sound good, but do not fully explain what exactly happened here. We know that the initial layers of the pyramids were placed without any mortar or gara, but the upper layers were added to increase the stability of the structure. This is the reason why, even after thousands of years of earthquakes, the Pyramid of Giza is still standing. This mortar is also a mystery. Scientists do know the exact chemistry of it, but the scientists were unable to reconstruct finally. The last step was the outer layer of it was very fine whitish limestone, which means that whenever sunlight came, all the pyramids would glow in white. This is something that broke after thousands of years. The outer layer is worn off from the Khufu and Menkaure pyramids, but in the Khafre pyramids, you can still see the outer layer. Moving on from construction to the design of is also fascinating. Do you know that these pyramids were designed in such a way that their 4 directions in north, east, south, west are exactly pointing? There's a very small error here, 1 to 115th of 1 degree, which is a very small error. Almost assume that they are accurately pointing toward the 4 directions. How is this? At that time, there was no compass, no modern technology, no GPS technology. So once again, researchers have their theoretical explanations that how Egyptians achieved such a high level of precision. A popular theory about this is autumn equinox, when the earth tilts in such a way that day and night are exactly equal. The shadow is in a straight line in the east and west direction. If the Egyptians used this method, then the degree of error in their calculations is also present in the shadow of autumn, equinox. The second theory here is about constellations. Looking at the direction of the stars, the Egyptians aligned their design. In 1989, Robert Bowell, an author and Egyptology enthusiast, made his Orion correlation theory. He said that the three pyramids of Giza are actually aligned in the straight line, he says that the alignment was intentional, and the ancient Egyptians knew about astronomy. They used to track the stars at night and study them. According to historians, their crops at different times. Historians believe that this is a fringe theory. Some points that are against this theory are that the three pyramids were not planned at end. In 1999, when astronomers tested this theory and looked at the Orion constellation stars, they found that the pyramids are not aligned accordingly. The thing is that the constellation has shifted after thousands of years. The alignment of the stars is not the same as it is today. This theory is important because it is a classic case where people try to find patterns even if they don't exist. When solid evidence is not there, there's no exact explanation we make our ideas, and if we find a link somewhere, we believe it to be true. If you take this to a new level and exaggerate it, more weird theories are created. People say that aliens made these pyramids because it is not possible that humans did this. In my opinion, such weird theories are scientific thinking. This is a shortcut way to find solution. When we have solution, it is better that we acknowledge that we know, and what we don't know, we should keep it clearly in front so that future generations, future archaeologists, historians can do research on this and give a complete solution and explanation about these mysteries. Thank you